In the glittering world of luxury hospitality, where five-star service is expected and demanded, appearances can be deceiving and assumptions can cost everything. This story begins on a crisp autumn morning at the prestigious Grand Plaza Hotel in Manhattan, where crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows across marble floors and staff members pride themselves on catering to the world's elite. Sarah Richardson stepped through the gleaming revolving doors, her designer briefcase in hand. Despite her net worth of $2.8 billion and her position as CEO of one of the country's largest real estate development firms, she wore a simple black blazer and pants. Her natural hair was styled elegantly, and her minimal makeup highlighted her confident smile. The front desk clerk barely glanced up as Sarah approached, his eyes fixed on his computer screen. "I'm sorry, we're fully booked," he said dismissively. Before she could even speak, Sarah raised an eyebrow, pulled out her phone, and opened the hotel's booking app, which showed multiple rooms available. "There seems to be a mistake," Sarah said calmly, her voice steady despite the familiar sting. "Your website shows several suites available." The clerk's expression shifted from disinterest to barely concealed disdain as he looked her up and down. "Those rooms are reserved for our special guests. Perhaps I can recommend another hotel downtown." What happened next would send shockwaves through the hospitality industry and spark a conversation about discrimination that would reach far beyond the polished halls of the Grand Plaza. Sarah simply nodded, turned on her heel, and walked out. But she wasn't leaving. She was preparing. 2 weeks later, the same clerk's jaw dropped as Sarah walked back through those revolving doors. This time, she wasn't alone. Behind her strode a team of lawyers, real estate executives, and hotel management experts. In her hand was not a reservation request, but ownership papers for the entire Grand Plaza Hotel chain. The story of what led to this moment, how Sarah Richardson built her empire from the ground up, why she chose this particular hotel chain, and what she did next, became a turning point in the ongoing fight against discrimination in the hospitality industry. But more than that, it became a testament to resilience, strategic thinking, and the power of responding to prejudice not with anger, but with excellence. Camera pans across the hotel's elegant lobby. What happened after Sarah took ownership? How did she transform not just the Grand Plaza, but the entire conversation around diversity in luxury hospitality? And what became of the staff members who had so quickly judged her by the color of her skin rather than the content of her character? Stay tuned as we uncover the remarkable series of events that followed, and how one woman's experience sparked a movement that would change the face of luxury hospitality forever. The story of Sarah Richardson's rise to billions wasn't just about money. It was about proving something to herself and the world. Growing up in Chicago's South Side, she watched her mother work 3 jobs to keep their small apartment, while her father built a modest real estate business fixing up neglected properties in their neighborhood. When Sarah was 16, her father took her to view a rundown apartment complex he hoped to renovate. "Baby girl," he said, standing in that dusty hallway, "sometimes the most valuable things in life are the ones others overlook." Those words would shape her entire future, though she didn't know it then. After graduating top of her class at Howard University's business school, Sarah started small, just like her father. She bought her first property, a foreclosed duplex, with every penny she had saved working part-time jobs through college. While her classmates headed to Wall Street, she spent weekends replacing fixtures and learning about zoning laws. 10 years and countless renovations later, her company, Richardson Development Group, had transformed neglected properties across 12 major cities. Her signature approach? Finding overlooked gems in prime locations and turning them into sustainable, community-centered developments that maintain neighborhood character while creating opportunities for local businesses. The Grand Plaza incident wasn't her first encounter with discrimination in the industry. At countless meetings, she'd been mistaken for someone's assistant. During property tours, real estate agents would speak to her male employees instead of her. But Sarah had learned to turn prejudice into opportunity, using others' underestimation as her secret weapon. Camera shows newspaper headlines and business magazine covers. The week before her return to the Grand Plaza, Sarah's team had quietly completed their largest acquisition yet. a controlling stake in the hotel's parent company, Luxury Hospitality Group. The purchase had been months in the making, orchestrated through a maze of investment vehicles and shell companies to keep her identity hidden until the perfect moment. But this wasn't about revenge. Sarah had bigger plans. The Grand Plaza's prime locations and strong brand recognition made it the perfect vehicle for her vision of what luxury hospitality could be: inclusive, community-oriented, and profitable. She saw potential where others saw only tradition. As she stood in the lobby that second time, watching the color drain from the clerk's face, Sarah remembered her father's words about overlooked value. The hotel staff didn't know it yet, but they were about to witness a masterclass in turning oversight into opportunity. Music builds tension. What changes did Sarah implement in those first crucial weeks? How did the existing staff react to their new owner? And what unexpected allies and enemies would emerge as she began to reshape one of the hospitality industry's most established institutions? Sarah's first month as owner of the Grand Plaza brought changes that sent ripples through the luxury hotel industry. Her initial staff meeting was unforgettable. Walking into the grand ballroom where hundreds of nervous employees gathered, including the clerk who had turned her away. Instead of firing him, she appointed him to lead her new diversity training program, turning his mistake into a teaching moment. But not everyone embraced her vision. A group of longtime board members and investors began pushing back. They claimed her new policies would diminish the brand. Anonymous letters circulated suggesting she wasn't qualified to run a luxury hotel chain. Several high-profile clients threatened to take their business elsewhere. The tension reached its peak during the annual Hospitality Excellence Awards, hosted at the Grand Plaza itself. Sarah had implemented numerous changes, from partnering with minority-owned businesses for hotel supplies to creating a mentorship program for underprivileged youth interested in hospitality careers. The old guard watched in horror as she transformed their exclusive club into what they feared would become just another hotel. Music intensifies. On the night of the awards, the hotel was fully booked with industry leaders and media. The same lobby where Sarah had been rejected now showcased artwork from local artists of color. The restaurant menu featured diverse cuisines from celebrated local chefs. But as Sarah prepared to give her keynote speech, she received alarming news. Several major shareholders had called an emergency board meeting for the next morning. They had enough votes to potentially force her out. The very institution she had bought to change might slip through her fingers. As she stood at the podium, looking out at the sea of faces, some supportive, others hostile, Sarah realized this wasn't just about one hotel anymore. This was about changing an entire industry's perception of what luxury could look like. Camera focuses on Sarah adjusting her microphone. What would she say in this crucial moment? How would she defend her vision against those who sought to preserve the status quo? And most importantly, could she prove that inclusion and excellence weren't just compatible, but inseparable? As Sarah took the podium at the Hospitality Excellence Awards, a familiar face in the crowd caught her attention. Her father's old business partner, Thomas Wells, the same man who had forced her father into bankruptcy 15 years ago, sat smirking at a VIP table. Suddenly, the pieces clicked into place. Thomas had been quietly buying shares in the Grand Plaza through various shell companies, orchestrating the shareholder revolt. Sarah's grip tightened on the podium as memories flooded back. She'd watched her father lose everything when Thomas manipulated their partnership agreement, using the same underhanded tactics he was attempting now. But this time, Sarah had something her father didn't: irrefutable evidence of Thomas's long history of discriminatory business practices. Camera pans across the tense audience. Just as Sarah opened her mouth to speak, her phone buzzed. A text from her chief financial officer. Major breaking news about Wells. Turn on the news now. The giant screens around the ballroom, meant to broadcast her speech, suddenly flickered with breaking news alerts. Thomas's face drained of color as he reached for his own phone. But before anyone could process what was happening, the hotel's power cut out, plunging the ballroom into darkness. When the emergency lights flickered on, Thomas was gone, and Sarah held in her hands an anonymous note that would change everything. You're not the only one who bought shares in secret. In the darkened ballroom, the emergency screens suddenly blazed to life. revealing a face that made Sarah gasp, her mother. "Ladies and gentlemen," her mother's voice rang out, "I believe this belongs to me." The breaking news headline revealed that Catherine Richardson, Sarah's mother who had worked 3 jobs to support their family, had quietly built her own hospitality empire across Europe. The mysterious note's sender was the same woman who had taught Sarah to hold her head high when others looked down. Over the past decade, Catherine had transformed her housekeeping position at luxury hotels into a remarkable success story, eventually becoming a major shareholder in several European hotel chains. She had been watching Thomas Wells too, gathering evidence of his discriminatory practices across continents. Sarah's mother stepped into the ballroom, commanding attention in her elegant business suit. The evidence she presented was devastating. A detailed dossier of Wells's systematic discrimination against minority-owned businesses, including the scheme he used against Sarah's father. Within minutes, Wells's allies began distancing themselves, their support crumbling. But Sarah's mother wasn't finished. She revealed her own stake in the Grand Plaza, enough to combine with Sarah's shares and create an unbeatable majority. As Thomas Wells was escorted out by security, mother and daughter shared a knowing smile. The transformation they would bring to the hospitality industry would be bigger than anyone could have imagined. Yet even as victory seemed certain, Sarah noticed her mother holding one last envelope. "Darling," Catherine said, her eyes twinkling, "wait until you see what I have planned for Monte Carlo." 1 year after that fateful night at the Hospitality Excellence Awards, the Grand Plaza Hotels stood transformed. Sarah and Catherine Richardson's mother-daughter partnership had revolutionized the luxury hospitality industry. The clerk who once turned Sarah away had become the company's highly respected head of inclusive excellence, training staff across their growing hotel empire. The Grand Plaza's new apprenticeship program had opened doors for hundreds of minority students interested in hospitality careers. Local businesses flourished through partnership opportunities, and the hotels maintained their 5-star ratings while setting new standards for inclusive luxury. Thomas Wells's discriminatory practices were fully exposed, leading to industry-wide reforms and investigations into similar cases. Sarah's father's old properties in Chicago's South Side were renovated and incorporated into a new boutique hotel line, preserving their historical significance while creating jobs in the community. The overlooked value he had taught Sarah to see had transformed not just buildings, but lives. Catherine's European expansion plans proved even more ambitious than anyone expected. The Richardson women launched a global initiative connecting luxury hotels with local communities, proving that excellence and inclusion could coexist profitably. Their success sparked a movement, with other hotel chains scrambling to follow their lead. As Sarah stood in the Grand Plaza lobby on another autumn morning, she watched a young black girl walk through the revolving doors with her mother. The girl's eyes widened at the crystal chandeliers, just as Sarah's once had. This time, the front desk clerk warmly welcomed them, and Sarah smiled, knowing that this child would grow up in a world where she belonged in every space she entered. The Richardson legacy had become more than a business success story. It was a reminder that true luxury isn't about exclusion, but about creating spaces where everyone's dignity is honored and celebrated. As Sarah headed to her next meeting, her phone buzzed with a message from her mother. "Monte Carlo's ready. Time to make history again." Sarah looked up at her father's favorite quote, now elegantly displayed in the lobby. "Sometimes the most valuable things in life are the ones others overlook." She smiled, knowing their journey was far from over. This was just the beginning.